A 20,000-ton oil tanker is moving across the open waters of the Persian Gulf. Its captain stares at the navigation screen. According to the satellite signal, his ship is no longer at sea. It is parked, motionless, on top of an Iranian nuclear facility, 300 kilometers inland. The vessel has not moved. The world around it has been rewritten in code. In the last 24 hours, more than 1,100 commercial ships and civilian aircraft in the Gulf corridor have suffered the same digital abduction. Their satellite positioning data has been hijacked, manipulated, and replaced with phantom coordinates broadcast by hostile transmitters. At the same moment, 6,000 miles away, a water treatment plant in a small American town receives an unexpected command. A programmable logic controller, the size of a paperback book, begins shifting chemical mixing ratios on its own. An engineer notices the anomaly within minutes. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency confirms the source. The intrusion did not originate from a domestic actor. It came from an Iran-linked persistent threat group operating thousands of miles from the target. The American-Iranian conflict is no longer being fought with cruise missiles alone. It is being fought with invisible waves, false signals, and lines of malicious code that bypass every aircraft carrier in the fleet. The technique reshaping the Gulf is called spoofing. Unlike jamming, which simply blocks a satellite signal with brute force noise, spoofing replaces it with a counterfeit version. A military transmitter, mounted on a coastal tower or a mobile truck, broadcasts a fake global navigation satellite signal stronger than the real one coming from 20,000 kilometers above the Earth. Civilian receivers, from container ship bridges to passenger aircraft cockpits, are designed to lock onto the strongest available signal. They have no method of verifying authenticity. They simply trust. Within seconds, a Boeing 777 cruising at 36,000 feet can be tricked into believing it is parked on a runway in Tehran. A liquefied natural gas tanker carrying a cargo worth $120 million can be tricked into believing it is sailing through dry desert. The intent behind this electronic curtain is military. American and Iranian forces are using overlapping spoofing fields to confuse low-cost kamikaze drones and precision-guided munitions, attempting to build what defense analysts describe as an electronic force field over the strait. Cheap drones rely almost entirely on satellite navigation, corrupt the signal, and the weapon drifts off course or falls into the sea. The strategy works. The collateral damage is the entire civilian aviation and shipping industry of the Middle East. The Kuwait Flight Information Region has been closed to all commercial traffic. The decision was issued after multiple aircraft reported total navigation failure inside the corridor, and missile sirens triggered emergency diversions for inbound carriers. An El Al jet executed a go-around under live alert conditions while approaching the corridor edge. Tehran and Doha have imposed restrictions so severe that overflight has become a calculated risk no major insurer will underwrite. The corridor that once carried more than 1,500 daily flights between Europe and Asia has been deleted from the map. Carriers now route over the Caspian Sea, the Caucasus, or the southern edge of the Arabian Peninsula, adding fuel burn, crew hours, and operational costs to every long-haul flight. Lloyd's List records 1,735 distinct signal disruption events in a single week of Gulf operations. Maritime insurance premiums for vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz have multiplied, in some cases by a factor of 10. Underwriters are not pricing the risk of being struck by a missile. They are pricing the risk of two unrelated tankers, blinded by spoofed coordinates and a frozen automatic identification system feed, colliding at 14 knots in open water with full cargo holds. Then the conflict crossed the ocean. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Environmental Protection Agency issued a joint emergency advisory. Iran-linked groups, operating under names such as CyberAv Thringers, have penetrated programmable logic controllers inside American water and wastewater facilities. The targets are not financial systems or government databases. The targets are the small industrial computers that open valves, regulate chlorine dosing, and manage pump pressure inside municipal water plants. Several facilities have already reported operational disruptions. Energy substations and a major medical device manufacturer have also been compromised. At one industrial plant tied to the firm Stryker, the breach forced a pause in the supply of surgical instruments, postponing scheduled operations in multiple American hospitals. Default factory passwords, never rotated since installation, allowed remote access through exposed industrial ports running on protocols designed in an era before the public internet existed. Engineers found Israeli-manufactured Unitronics controllers responding to commands routed through servers in 3 different countries. The intrusion path was simple. The patch cycle was non-existent. The war that began over the Strait of Hormuz has reached the inside of a Pennsylvania kitchen tap and a Midwestern operating room. The doctrine driving this campaign is asymmetric. Iran cannot match the 11 carrier strike groups of the United States Navy. It cannot challenge American air superiority over its own coastline. So it does not try. Instead, it identifies the soft underbelly of a hyper-connected economy, the legacy industrial controllers running on default passwords inside critical civilian infrastructure, and applies pressure where the cost of defense is 1,000 times the cost of attack. A single zero-day exploit costs less than a guided missile and reaches deeper into the American mainland than any warhead Iran possesses. Black market prices for water utility intrusion kits reportedly trade for under $50,000 on encrypted forums. The Pentagon understands the equation. So does Tehran. So does every utility operator now reviewing 20-year-old control systems that were never designed to face a nation-state adversary across a fiber optic cable. The economic bill is being written in real time. Container ships idling outside the strait, unable to trust their own navigation, are bleeding charter rates of $70,000 per day. Each idle vessel burns roughly 150 tons of fuel oil daily simply to maintain station and onboard power. Rerouted aircraft are burning an additional 15 to 20% in fuel on every blocked corridor flight, with single-sector costs rising by tens of thousands of dollars on each rotation. Global insurers have begun excluding cyber-physical attacks on water and power utilities from standard policies, transferring the risk back to municipalities that lack the budget to absorb it. Energy traders are pricing in a permanent risk premium on every barrel of crude transiting the region. Semiconductor firms reliant on Gulf shipping lanes have warned of fresh delays to component deliveries already strained by the previous cycle. The cost is not measured in destroyed buildings. It is measured in delayed surgeries, longer flight times, higher grocery shelves, frozen export contracts, and the slow erosion of trust in the satellite signals that hold modern civilization together. There is no front line in this war. There are no trenches, no captured cities, no flags raised over conquered ground. There is only a tanker captain staring at a screen that lies to him, a water engineer watching a chemical valve open without command, and a passenger in seat 14B who will never know how close his aircraft came to a patch of empty desert that the autopilot believed was a runway. The next phase of this conflict will not be announced by sirens. It will be announced by silence. The silence of a pump that stops. The silence of a satellite that no longer answers. And by the time the silence is understood, the invoice will already have been paid in full by ordinary people who never knew they were standing inside the blast radius of a war fought entirely in code,